Alright guys, today we have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover. Before we dive into today's topics, do me a big favor. If you do enjoy videos like this or you find them informative, be sure to hit the like button. It helps them out more than you know. And if you are new here to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. We're starting here talking about the October lineup for PlayStation Now. Sony just revealed what this lineup is going to be today, and it's looking very strong. And so the standout is The Last of Us Part 2 now entering PlayStation Now, and that's going to be available until January 3rd, 2022. And it's worth noting that if you do end up playing it through the PS5 through PlayStation Now, you can download the performance patch, so you can get that added benefit. Some of the other titles that were added are Fallout 76, Amnesia the Collection, Desperados 3, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Victor, Gran Overkill Edition, and yet another Zombie Defense HD. And so all 7 of these games that I just listed will be available from October 5th, 2021. So there you go, a pretty solid lineup for PlayStation Now in October. The next topic we're talking about is something that is very interesting, and we may have to do a dedicated video talking about it. It depends, but we have a rumor coming from a source that we really don't talk about that often, but when we do, they are always on the money when it comes to PlayStation. That is Colin Moriarty. He took to Twitter today to say, "I'm hearing through the grapevine, Bluepoint may be on a journey to Yharnam." Now, obviously, he's talking about Bloodborne. And what he's essentially saying in this tweet, for those who maybe don't fully understand, is that Bluepoint Games is working on something Bloodborne related. Now, I can't say they're working on a Bloodborne remake, because as we know, very recently, with the announcement that Bluepoint Games is now a first-party PlayStation studio, they were sure to come out and let everybody know that their next project is going to be something original. Specifically, they're using the terminology original content. They're not saying a new IP, and I think that's for a specific reason. And then we have Colin Moriarty coming out here saying this, and Colin Moriarty, he very rarely ever kind of gives inside information like this, but when he does, he's usually correct. He was the one who talked about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart well before it was announced. He talked about Bluepoint Games in the past, saying that what he heard is that they're working on a Demon's Souls remake, and that turned out to be 100% true. And considering he was correct about Bluepoint in the past, stands to reason that he would be correct this time around as well. And so here's where the speculation begins. What exactly could it be that Bluepoint is working on? Well, we have another insider known as Millie A, who seems to also have some kind of inside track. They came out and claimed the day of the Bluepoint acquisition that they're actually working on 2 projects. One is a remake of a beloved game, and the other is a standalone original title. Not a new IP, but an original title that will be similar in size to Miles Morales. And what I'm beginning to think is happening here, if all of this does turn out to be true, all of the rumors, that is, the latest rumor claiming that they're working on Bloodborne, I think Bluepoint could be doing a full Bloodborne remake, but also a expansion, an original expansion that will essentially be, well, I don't know if I want to say Bloodborne 2, because I think to a lot of people that just sounds insane. I think there's actually a fair amount of people that wouldn't want to see a Bloodborne 2 if it's not being made by From Software, or if Miyazaki isn't involved in any way. But what I could maybe see is a large standalone Miles Morales-esque expansion, but this time for Bloodborne. I think that that could very well be what these 2 projects could be, right? But that's all speculation on my part. I do believe Colin Moriarty here, and so we're just going to have to wait to see what this ends up being when it's announced. It could just be they're remaking Bloodborne and that's it, but I don't see how that could be the only thing, considering they did go on record saying they're doing original content. So you guys can let me know down in the comments below what you think about this. Do you think that they're just simply doing a Bloodborne remake, and then their original content that they're referring to is something that's further down the pipeline and has nothing to do with it? Or do you think that there's a chance that is the original content? It's going to be original Bloodborne content, and if that is what we end up getting, how would you feel about that? I mean, could you just imagine the announcement of Bloodborne 2 and Bluepoint Games is the one doing it. I can't even imagine what the internet reactions would be like if that was a thing. So leave your thoughts down in the comments below. We're moving on to the next topic, which talks about Sony introducing game trials. So essentially, you will be able to try certain PS5 exclusives for a limited time. And this is a very big deal to a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you why this is a big deal after we go over the information. So this is reading from Push Square. They say Sony has sent out a wave of emails that introduces a new feature for PlayStation 5 owners called Game Trials. Starting today, the firm is giving PS5 owners the chance to download certain first-party titles and try them out free of charge for a limited time. The first 2 games available are Death Stranding Director's Cut and Sackboy: A Big Adventure. The fine print within the email explains that in order to activate a game trial, you'll need to head over to the PlayStation Store and select the trial option that's labeled as free. Death Stranding Director's Cut will offer 6 hours of playtime, while Sackboy: A Big Adventure has a 5-hour trial. The timer starts as soon as you trigger the download, so make sure you've got some time to spare, otherwise you'll have wasted the opportunity. Accounts are limited to 1 game trial of each game. Since game trials are limited to PS5 titles, the PS4 version of Sackboy: A Big Adventure doesn't qualify for this free test. Your progress, save data, and trophies will carry over into the full game should you choose to buy either title after the game trial expires. The game trials for Death Stranding Director's Cut and Sackboy: A Big Adventure are available until midnight on October 28th, 2021. And so I'm sure many of you are kind of surprised by this. I mean, I was surprised when this came out because there was seemingly no build up to it. Sony's just like, hey, we're doing this thing called game trials now with select PS5 exclusives. And I think it's awesome. I don't think there's anybody who thinks there's anything negative here. I mean, it's going to do a good job in exposing these games to a much wider audience. You know, you just get to download the game for free. I think the only thing here that some people may have a problem with is that the timer for like 6 hours, for example, for Death Stranding, as soon as you hit download or, you know, you click the button, start the free trial, the timer starts ticking at that moment, and from that point forward you have a 6-hour window to play the game, right? So it's unlikely that most people will have just 6 hours to, you know, sit down and play it for that long. Some people will, of course, but I think people would have preferred if it was like, hey, I can, you know, use up these 6 hours as I please, you know, and play it when I want. So maybe that's something Sony will change in the future, but still, that's pretty good. And the reason why I think this is a really big deal is because some people have been saying maybe this is Sony's solution or answer to Game Pass. Now, that sounds a little strange. I don't think that really you can compare them in the same way per se, because they're two very different things, but I do understand what people mean when they say that. Essentially, what they mean is that when you look at Game Pass, one of the biggest draws for a service like that is they will have pretty much every first-party Microsoft title, and all you have to do to try out any one of those titles, even, you know, the back catalog titles, is just subscribe for 1 month for $10, and you can try out all those games for as long as you want, as long as you're subscribed. This could be a way for Sony to kind of, you know, introduce something similar. This isn't a service. Again, it's just totally free, but imagine what this would look like if Sony were to start doing this with more of their exclusives. Imagine what this would look like if Sony were to do this with all of their exclusives. Granted, the amount of time you could spend with each one, I think, would certainly change. For example, if they ever wanted to do something like this around the release of God of War Ragnarok, I don't think they would, but maybe limit it to an hour, you know, maybe 2 hours max to get people in the door and get them to buy the game. It's a really interesting thing here that Sony's doing, and we do have to understand that Sony did say a while ago, specifically Jim Ryan, that they do have their own answer to Game Pass, and we really haven't heard anything since then. So some people, you know, think that maybe this is it. Maybe this is what they're going to grow, and they'll just call it game trials. And so it's nice. It's not anything groundbreaking. It's essentially just an extended demo. Demos are kind of far and few in between. So hopefully Sony will continue to pursue this and expand upon it by adding even more PlayStation exclusives over time for people to try out to see if they're interested in buying the game. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the next topic, which talks about the availability of these next-gen consoles, both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, because we have a pretty significant update from AMD, and it is good news. So this is reading from PlayStation Universe. AMD boss Lisa Su expects that the chip shortage currently plaguing the PS5 and Xbox Series X is likely to continue until the second half of 2022. Su made the comments at California's Code Conference earlier today, where she anticipates that chip supplies will be likely tight during the first half of next year, but expects things to ease up as the second half of 2022 rolls around, when the efforts of new manufacturing plants are felt. And we have a direct quote from Lisa Su, quote, "It might take, 18 to 24 months to put on a new plant, and in some cases even longer than that. These investments were started perhaps a year ago," end quote. And so I thought that this was important enough to talk about, because I still see so many people in my comment section or on Twitter or just all across the internet basically expressing their frustration and how difficult it still is for some people to get their hands on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X if that's the console you want. And I think that this is good news, because the last I heard, it was going to be not until sometime in 2023 when this shortage would kind of ease up and it would become easier for people to get their hands on these consoles. And now it seems like that's shifting into the second half of 2022, and that's really promising, because that's not that far away, right? Like, we're almost done with 2021. 2022 is going to be here before we know it, and I think that it's going to be a great thing when this shortage is no longer an issue and pretty much everybody who wants one can get one. I think that's going to actually benefit game development as well, because publishers and game developers will feel much more confident in just embracing, next gen only game development, knowing that there isn't this severe shortage. So that's another reason I really want this to happen sooner rather than later. And so hopefully what AMD's Lisa Su is saying does turn out to be the way it goes down. And who knows, maybe it'll happen even sooner than that. We'll have to wait and see, but that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did find it informative. Be sure to leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. I will be interested to see what you have to say. Again, leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.